Yes, we do. We welcome in the Wisconsin football coach. It is Luke Fickell. Luke, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So Big Ten Media Days, you're back in the Big Ten, obviously. What's it been like here down in Indy?
It's kind of been surreal. I think that walking in here, just kind of a lot of flashbacks of remembrance. And it's not like I remember the one media day that I had been to. No, I don't. But it's just the flashbacks of all the logos of Indianapolis in general. And just it was very surreal at the very beginning. Actually took a couple deep breaths, kind of looked around, was like, wow, kind of full circle right now. So it's been pretty impressive.
A lot of memories in this building for you, obviously, as well. I mean, 2014, 2016.
I I try not. Yes, there's a few. There's no doubt.
You try not to mention 2014.
No, I don't know. No,
That was I was here. It was not good.
Yeah,
it was not good. But a fun place, and there's a lot of great memories for Wisconsin people here as well. 2011, and they played the Final Four here as well. That they went to the national championship. So a lot of good things. I had an opportunity to chat with a former player of yours, Joshua Perry.
Yep.
And he glowing things. But I asked him for a story about you, and he talked about you and Mike Vrabel and the wrestling. Can you give me a little more details on what this is? Because there were challenges, right? You would challenge players.
Yeah, yeah. I was a little younger then. I mean, we would try to do things that just to have fun, but also to push ourselves and mentally and some things like that. And I was kind of harassed the guys that didn't wrestle, that you weren't tough enough to wrestle. So it became a little bit more of a joke thing. But there are things that we could do, and then I think they start to gather the stories that happen, because whenever he come back, he's not short on stories. And he doesn't have a whole lot of a filter, because he can tell anybody about anything at times. So, no, it was a great experience. And obviously Josh, what a great kid, young man now that, it's awesome to see those guys grow up.
He was talking about that. You as a coach, he called you the perfect coach, because it's not just about football. When you talk to him, it's about his family, and it's his mom, and it's his dad, what it means to him. Why is that important to you?
Well, there's so much more that goes into this. I mean, the to be well-rounded is so critical. I mean, there's so much adversity in this game, and you got to deal with so many other people. And if you don't know where a kid is coming from, you don't know how he's grown up, it's really hard to get him through some of those situations. And his was easier one, obviously, being from close, and he was just outside of Columbus, and then there's such outgoing people that you knew the family, so you had a better grasp of it. But I just think it's so critical. It's so vital. Of being able to get a kid to develop through those 18 to 22-year-old years, because there's going to be changes. It never, ever goes for them the way they envision it. And it shouldn't, right? That's life. But if you don't know them, if you don't have that relationship, it's really hard to get them through those tough times. So it's just been the thing for me that's always been more about a relationship than it is anything else.
That's a good transition into the recruiting aspect of this. I know you came out this summer, and there was the big hullabaloo of the in-state recruiting. And I know you came out and you talked to a few people about it. Why was it important to come out and get that message out there, that in-state recruiting is important to you, even though maybe in this class it hasn't necessarily gone exactly how you wanted it to?
Well, I mean, I want to make sure they understand, how important it is, but truly how much work we did put into it. It doesn't always work. We understand that. And sometimes it's the right thing for the right people and the right kid. And it is what it is, but it's not going to change how we feel about what it is we need to do to be successful and to sustain success within our program. And if it doesn't start at home, it's going to be really difficult. You can win here and there, and you can win those battles, but when you're talking about sustaining excellence, when you really look at why, I know there's been a change, but why Wisconsin for such a long time had sustained excellence, and that's what I would call it. And it has a lot to do with the types of kids. It has a lot to do with probably Coach Alvarez taking care of their state and keeping those kids and developing those kids. And what they've done in the past is a great indication of what you can do in the future. And we've got to do a better job of it. We've got to build better relationships, and we will.
I think it's you talk about going elsewhere to get kids at times. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some, whatever it is. But this class, I know you can't talk about specifics, but one of your recruiters has gone to the East Coast and really done a really good job. Colin Hischler, safeties coach. When you're hiring a guy, how much of it is about their recruiting ability? How much is their coaching ability, or is it trying to find the best of both worlds?
It is. It's about people.
Okay.
I've said that several times today, and what is important and what are the things, and whether it's Mike Tressel or Phil Longo, different offense or different defense. And I'm like, it's about people. And I think that's what's really critical in hiring coaches. And, yes, there's an expertise, but I went and did one of my first interviews. And when I got the job at Ohio State, I interviewed with Jim Tressel, and it's amazing. Maybe an hour and a half, and never once did he ask me any question about football. And it always stuck with me. And it was so much about people. That's the way I learned it. And it's the same way. I mean, Colin is a great example. I mean, just of a guy that's developed and grown, and we all can continue to grow no matter how old we are, as long as you've got the passion and the will to do it. And so if you don't have the right people, it probably won't grow within the program because they don't believe maybe the same things are important as you do. So it doesn't matter whether it's a player or a coach. I think that's so critical for us.
So you guys are heading out to Platteville for the first week of camp next week. For you, what is the biggest question mark position group otherwise that for you going into that?
Well, I think I've always say it's critical. I think we've got a really deep offensive line. So there's not one position group, but when I say this, I say we've got a really deep offensive line, but it's so critical that we figure out what that 5 really look like and get them into position. And then what that 6 and 7, and that's that position, right? It's really critical for us to recognize maybe we've got 8 guys on the defensive line, what it's going to look like. Like, it's not going to look like one guy playing 65 snaps. It's going to have to be accumulation of guys playing anywhere from 20 to 45 to 50 snaps. I mean, like, and so I think that all those positions in particular, I would say we after spring, we were really thin at the back end corner position in particular. You had 2 true freshmen that probably finished up being the 2s throughout spring, but we've had the ability to maybe bring in a couple more guys to give us some depth to create that competition and to see how it all kind of works itself out throughout camp. So there's a lot of unknowns as a first year coach.
Sure.
And I'm not saying, well, you've done this before. I know, but there's still a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of unknowns every year. I think there's more unknowns when you're in your first year because leadership is so key into how things develop.
I know this is going to be sounding like a stupid question because
there are no stupid questions, right? That's what we were always told as a kid, right?
It feels obvious, but in terms of the offense, when you change an offense that has not an identity, but an offensive system that you change after however long it's been, how important is it to work in year one? Because to get people on board.
Well, I mean, it's important for it to work no matter what, but I think what is most important is to not the outside noise is the outside noise. Like, I hope we're far enough along. And again, we can all be affected by it. But if there's one thing that I learned from studying and watching and evaluating, like, people as they went, whether they were with, as head coaches, right? And the ability to have consistency is so critical. And I look back to our first year at Cincy, and nobody wants to go through that, right? 4-8, or, I mean, it was closer to 1-11 than it was 4-8, but the evolution of what it is that we did and how we developed offensively is really, really critical. And, the next year we weren't great, but yet we won football games. And it really showed me, okay, that's why I talk about playing your best ball at the end of the year, the ability to have consistency. There's going to be ebbs and flows. There's going to be, things that we have to do better as coaches that Phil's going to have to recognize and do that are going to help fit us a little bit more. And there's things that players are going to have to do. And we're going to have to block out, no matter what it is, the outside noise, whether you get to a point where winning is not good enough or, not having 200 yards rushing is not good enough. So all those things come together. Like, we got to find a way to win, and we got to find a way to continue to grow.
Gotcha. A couple more for you. Your quarterback, Tanner Mordecai, what is a skill set of his that stands out for you?
Leadership. And I think that's one of those intangible things that's easier for me to talk about, because if I told you it's his arm, if I told you it was his legs, if I told you, those are things he's going to prove. But what I could talk about is his ability to walk in here a lot like me, embrace all things Wisconsin, not have an attitude, not have a, some type of entitlement of any sorts, and just go about earning the respect of everybody within the program. It's been awesome to watch.
I think the other one I want to ask about was Braelon, because in the spring you talked about how if everything goes to plan, this will be it. He'll go to the NFL. What does a good enough season, or what does a good season like that look like in your mind?
it's going to come down to what Braelon thinks is most important, right? I mean, every guy is a little bit different, right? I mean, I've had guys that say, look, I'm not leaving unless I'm the first round draft pick, right? I'm not leaving unless I'm a first 3-round draft pick. And then there's some guys that look, I just want the opportunity. And then you could take a guy, go all the way back to a Joe Thomas, who I've heard like he wasn't leaving unless he was either going to be the first player taken or for sure the first tackle. Now he had to come back probably because he blew his knee out, but
he's the most remarkable thing ever because he came back and he was there in August after doing it in January.
His mind was, I want to be the very first tackle taken. And so whether he'd hurt himself or not, I don't know that he would have come out, but everybody's different.
Yeah.
And, like I said, I've had kids. I just want an opportunity and I'm going to get an opportunity. So I'm going to go.
This is the last one. I don't know how you feel about it, but Jim Leonhard took a job with Brett Bielema down in Illinois. When you heard that I'm sure you were probably aware of it in the past. Yeah. When you heard that, what was your thoughts?
I mean, good for him. I mean, if that's, what it is that he wants to do, this was hard, right? I mean, I don't think, and I'm sure if you talk to Jim, there's no ill will. There's no nothing against Wisconsin. It's just guys understand like what they need to do because they want to continue to grow in this profession. And obviously he wants to continue to coach, whether it's be a head coach, whether it's be a defensive coordinator, whether it's in the college and the NFL. And sometimes we can all get personal and think, why would you do that? But that if you're out, that's not a great sign. You're not growing as much as you think you can work. So to have the opportunity to obviously continue to grow because he's got passion to continue to coach the game, I think, that he's a great person. He's a great man. Won't like him one day of the year, but that's just the nature of the beast of what we do. But I'm excited to see what he does in the future because he's going to continue to coach.
The talking's almost done. You're so close to camp. What's your excitement level of just getting down to Platteville and getting going?
Again, I've always said this, I don't want to rush to get there, but boy, is it hard not to. And it's just, there's so many unknowns that is so exciting about what camp is. And, I've said it a million times, the motivation for just all things, right? I mean, every year you're motivated, but it being new, it being something here, it's just from the recruiting side of things, the motivation of have rivalries and recruiting to, it's so motivating that you don't want to wish away the days, but boy, I mean, it's starting to get to that point where my wife's even like, you know what, why don't you guys just go and start? Because you're here, but you're not here.
It's going to be fun getting out of Platteville and seeing your guys in action. I think we're all looking forward to it. The talking's done. Football's almost here. Luke, I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Appreciate it.